All right, Confident Man Academy. Welcome to our inaugural CMA Influencers Making a Significant Impact live show. It's going to be here every Tuesday at 1 p.m. till, we can do it up till 2. It just depends on how many questions we have or how many comments we get. And I'm using a new platform here, so please forgive me as I learn how to use it well, and also learned that I've got to do it only on my laptop because I couldn't use my external webcam. The Be Live platform didn't like it, so it kept on crashing my computer, which was difficult. If there's anyone out there that knows Be Live, I would love to hear from you to learn a little bit more about it. But yeah, looking forward to this show and looking forward to your questions. And the agenda today, we're going to be learning about the 7 myths of leading from the middle. What does it mean to lead from the middle? Well, there's lots of classic examples of leadership, like William Wallace leading the charge of his warriors against the army that would oppress his people and himself. There's Winston Churchill, defying the Nazi threat as much as, much of Europe collapsed around him. Mahatma Gandhi leading the 200-mile march to the sea in protest of the SALT Act. There's Mary Kay Ash going off on her own to create a world-class organization, Mary Kay Cosmetics. Martin Luther King Jr. standing before the Lincoln Memorial, challenging the nation with his dream of reconciliation. And you may or may not have heard of these leaders. But are some of the greatest leaders there have been, and they were great leaders that impacted thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Yet these pictures can also be misleading. The reality is that 99% of all leadership occurs not from the top, but from the middle of an organization or a field. Usually an organization or group, has only one public leader, one person identified as a leader, generally, not all the time. So what do you do if you are not that top person? Well, the first thing I want to do is dispel some of the myths. So the first one is the position myth. Kind of goes like this: I can lead, I can't lead if I'm not at the top. That's the position myth. But if I had to identify the number one misconception people have about leadership, it would be the belief that leadership comes simply from having a position or a title. I know when I was in the military, I thought that way quite a bit. And because I did think that way, it really hurt me in my career. After my first 5 years, I excelled rather quickly. I did in 5 years what normally would take about 10. And then I went for a leadership position that I thought I was entitled to, I thought I was going to get. But those, and I got to say, at the time, I didn't think they were very wise, but those that were selecting the position for the leader to step into there chose wisely, because I didn't understand that leadership was about serving and service, not about position. But you don't need to possess a position at the top of your group or your department or your division or organization in order to lead well. If you think you do, then you have bought into the position myth. So the next one we've got here, the next of the 7 myths of leading from the middle, will be the destination myth. So the destination myth kind of says, when I get to the top, then I'll learn to lead. What? when I get to the top, then I'll learn to lead. No. If you want to succeed, you need to learn as much as you can about leadership before you have a leadership position. So in order to gain the leadership position, good leadership is learned in the trenches, leading as well as we can wherever we are is what prepared leaders do. And for leaders to get more and greater responsibility, they prepare. Becoming a good leader is a lifelong learning process. Lifelong learning process. If you look at the greatest leaders, they don't believe in retirement. Recent studies showed that the top CEOs and top business magnates read about a book a week. They're lifelong learners, always learning because things are always changing, and there's no that destination myth. You never arrive. It's how do you become the person you desire to be? You start now to adopt the thinking and the learning skills and develop the habits of the person you wish to be. It's a mistake to daydream about one day, when I'll be on top, instead of handling today so that it prepares you for tomorrow. There is no leadership destination. It's about living in today, learning to be a leader today if you want to be a leader tomorrow. It is. All right. That's the destination myth. Any questions? No comments? Oh, okay. Well, then we will move on to the influence myth. All right. If I were on top, then people would follow me. Yeah, just, influence. And being on top will give me influence and they'll follow me. People have no leadership. People who have no leadership experience have a tendency to overestimate the importance of a leadership title. Some people think that leadership is a reward that someone of importance can give them, can grant them. But influence doesn't work that way. You may be able to grant someone a position, but you cannot grant them real leadership. Influence must be earned. And leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less, as John Maxwell says. You have to, the influence myth, you have to build relationships. You look at my bookshelf back here, there's a lot of business books, leadership books, organizational structure, marketing, consulting, but a large portion of the books I have back here are actually relationship development books. And sad to say, I learned this later in life on how to. I would say I got lazy. I was in a fantastic marriage and a woman I loved and I thought I was going to be with forever, and I wanted to be, but things changed, and then because you dedicate and isolate as a man, sometimes you dedicate and isolate yourself to at your own detriment, and you stop building relationships outside of the ones of your close family, and that really puts a lid on your leadership, on your influence. And if you lose your purpose in your why, or if you're on your way up and you're starting to build a family and everything, one piece of advice I can give you is do not stop building relationships and networks outside of your family. Maintain your relationships with your friends outside of your family, and if you are in a job or a career field where you're isolated, you may not work with a lot of people during the day. Find a community, find a group to stay in touch with, to feel engaged. It's very important, because you need to influence. Like I said, influence must be earned. And what that means is being a friend, adding value to others within your network. It's not just about title. So the next one we're going to be talking about is, I love this one, the inexperience myth. All right. When I get to the top, I'll be in control. Have you ever found yourself saying something like, if I were in charge, we wouldn't have to do this. We wouldn't have done it that way. Things sure would be different around here if I were the boss. If so, let me tell you that there's good news and bad news. The good news is that the desire to improve an organization and the belief that you're capable of doing it are often marks of a leader. That's good. And Andy Stanley said, if you're a leader and leaders work for you, then they think they can do a better job than you. They just do, just like you do. And that's not wrong. That's just leadership. The desire to innovate, to improve, to create and to find a better way are all leadership characteristics. That's a good thing. That is a good thing. All right. Now here's the bad news. Without experience, being the top person in an organization, you would likely overestimate the amount of control you have at the top. And you see that with young leaders all the time. Many of them make big mistakes. Now, that's not to say you can't lead from a place of inexperience. I think one very important thing to remember is you're on a journey, right? So remember the destination myth, okay? You are on a journey and you have more experience than someone else. And your experience and your lessons and your suffering and from the experience can be utilized to bring up leaders that are behind you, for you to mentor them, to bring them up. Because when you bring them up, you lift yourself up. And just like if you're looking ahead of you and there's leaders in front of you, connect with them if you can, even if they're, you view them as your competition. They're not. You need to connect with them because they're ahead of you, and some of them hopefully would grab your hand and help you up and further in your journey, so you don't have to suffer the lessons that they suffered in their journey, and you can learn from them. So that's the inexperience myth. So use the experience you have. Use the experience you have. Please, please. All right. So the next one is the freedom myth. So have you heard this? When I get to the top, I'll no longer be limited. I'll be free, right? So sometimes I think people get the wrong idea about leadership. Many people hope that it's a ticket to freedom. That it'll provide a solution to their professional and career problems. But being at the top is not a cure-all. Have you ever entertained the idea that being in charge will change your life? Have thoughts of, such that come to, have any of these thoughts come to mind? So when I get to the top, I'll have made it. Destination myth, and also, the freedom myth there. When I finally finish climbing the corporate ladder, I'll have time to rest. Ooh, what if your ladder's up the wrong building? Yeah. And, here's another one. When I own the company, I'll be able to do whatever I want. Or maybe this one. When I'm in charge, the sky will be the limit. Well, anybody who has owned a company or been the top leader in an organization knows that those ideas are a little more than fantasies. Being the top leader does not mean you have no limits. It doesn't remove the lid from your potential. It doesn't matter what job you do or what position you obtain. You'll have limits. That's just the way life is. It's actually it's good that it's got limits though. How can I say? If you had total freedom and you had no limits, it would be chaos. There'd be no structure to society. There'd be no structure to whatever field of expertise you work in. You need to have some limits and good limits, but you're still an unlimited person. I don't think you can ever reach the limits of your capability. And also with that freedom myth about when I get to the top, no longer be limits. Usually the opposite is true. Usually when you get to the top, that freedom myth is that as you rise to the top, your rights get smaller, but your responsibilities get bigger. It's actually those that lead from the middle or from the bottom usually have more freedom. Well, the next one is the potential myth. And I just wanted to remind viewers out there, please, if you have any questions or comments, put them in and I'll be sure to answer them. All right. The potential myth. So this myth says, I can't reach my potential if I'm not the top leader. Well, I don't know. How many kids say, someday I want to grow up to be the vice president? Probably none. If a child has political aspirations, they want to be the president or the prime minister. If they have a bent towards business, they want to be the business owner or the CEO. Few people aspire to reach the middle. Yet the reality is that most people will never be the top leader in an organization or field. They will spend their careers somewhere in the middle. Is that okay? Or should everybody play the, the career king of the hill and try to reach the top? I believe that people should strive for their top of their game, not the top of the organization or the field. Each of us should work to reach our own potential, not necessarily the corner office. Sometimes you can make the greatest impact from somewhere other than first place. You can change lives. You can make the greatest impact from where you are. The potential myth, that's the potential myth, is that we've got too much comparison going on. Maximize your potential where you are, and you will gain freedom and fulfillment, and you will impact the world. Yeah. And you'll never know. The greatest leaders most of them weren't actually aiming for the achievements, for the positions, the titles that they achieved. Most of them were just trying to do the most of where they were. All right. And the last but not least myth is all or nothing myth. If I can't get to the top, then I won't even try to lead. What are the prospects for you getting to the top of your organization or someday becoming the leader? What's the percentages? The reality is most people is that they'll never be the CEO. Does that mean they should just give up on leading altogether? Excuse me. That's what some people do. They look at an organization, a group, and recognize that they will not be able to make it to the top, and they give up. Their attitude is, if I can't be the captain of the team, then I'll take my ball and go home. And then you're just not even in the game anymore. You do not need to be the top dog to make a difference. Leadership is not meant to be an all or nothing proposition. If being someplace other than the top has caused you great frustration, please don't throw the towel in. Why? Why? Because you can make an impact from where you are in an organization or field. Like I just covered this. Even if you have additional obstacles, you can change people's lives. It's not an all or nothing game. It's not. So those are the 7 myths of leading from the middle. Let's see if there's any questions here. No questions or comments yet. 21 minutes in. All right. Well, I'm just going to, so those are the, here we go. I wanted to thank you. Oh, hello. Thank you for watching the live show, and we're going to be on every Tuesday at 1. Sorry, I put a misnomer there, at 1 p.m. every week. And if you have any recommendations on what you want me to cover, please send me a comment and a question. I do want to let you know tomorrow night we have our face-to-face meetup over in West End. And I'm going to be covering a little bit of this material here. It's a gathering for like-minded individuals who want to grow and improve their leadership to be it's the Confident Man Academy, and a combined event with Leadership for Losers to become the leaders and the men and the women that they aspire to be. I teach and coach and train on leadership and natural health topics, on finding your purpose, on building good relationships. Also wanted to, you know what, before you go, and if anyone else has some questions, I did want to mention that I'm going to be having my half-day workshop on the 26th of this month. It's on a Saturday. It's going to be 9 to 1 p.m. And anyone who attends the meetup tomorrow night will be able to purchase some discounted tickets to that. It's normally $97, but if you attend the meetup tomorrow night, you'll be able to get into that workshop for $47. And that workshop is based on the 5 elements of well-being. Gallup did a comprehensive study in 2010 in over 150 countries, revealing the 5 universal interconnected elements that shape our lives. That I guess the 5 elements of happiness, because happiness really isn't a goal. Happiness is a result when you're reaching for other goals, when you're balancing, I shouldn't say balancing, counterbalancing those 5 elements of well-being. And those 5 elements are your career, and not your job. I'm talking about your career, your meaning, your purpose in life. It's key to get that down. Your social relationships, love relationships, and family relationships. Your financial or material resources, your element. And another element is your physical, your health, and your energy. Your physical element, being healthy, naturally healthy, and finding strategies to do that will give you the energy so that you can get the things you need to get done. And community, or a sense of engagement. That's really what I'm trying to do is to build a community of like-minded individuals who want to grow, who want to maximize their potential. So that workshop is going to be, I know that it's going to be teaching on those 5 core elements of well-being based around what success is. And I know everyone's definition of success is a little bit different. I just want to share mine. Mine's, knowing your purpose in life. You need to know your purpose and your why, and you need to have that centered around You can't have it centered around material things or in other people, because those things can disappear. And if they disappear and you've got your meaning or your purpose in life wrapped up in them, it can bring your world down rather quickly. And then growing to reach your maximum potential. This is what success is. Success is sowing the seeds that benefit others, and success is having good health and enough energy to get things done. A 2001 survey, I think it was from Gallup also then, asked the most successful people in the world what they thought one of the what was the number one key to success? And they all did say number one thing is health. If you don't have your health, you don't have much, because you can't do the other things that will bring you to success. So that's on the 26th of this month. I would love to see you there. I also wanted to give you an update on the book. Going to be writing that. The book is going to be Secrets of the System. It's about surviving and navigating the family courts and domestic violence order system. It is a broken system. This book I'm going to be co-authoring with a friend who's had over a dozen, has represented himself in over a dozen court cases, in the family courts, domestic violence, magistrates courts, and criminal courts over family issues. And I mean, he found out how it really works. And I've talked to so many people that say the system is broken, but because of what he experienced, and when I was faced with a similar issue, I was able to resolve it rather quickly, with not much money, with not much stress, and not get wrapped up in the whole thing, because the system is geared at destroying families. It's geared at destroying people and lining the pockets of lawyers. Sorry to say, it appears that that's the way it is. The rules of that system are not what you think they are. And so we're writing a book to help save families and save fathers and mothers and children, and lots of time and stress, and even saving some lives. I mean, men are 10 times more likely to kill themselves after divorce or separation, women 4 times. And a lot of that is due to the system of the family courts and domestic violence order system purposely creating conflict, because the more conflict they can create, the more fees they generate. It is sad. It's a bit sad. Okay. Well, there's no questions. If you do have any questions or comments, please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer them. If not, we will see you on Tuesday at 1 p.m. next week, and have a wonderful week. All right. This is Doug Holt saying peace out.